Which Dallas Mavericks have the most to prove in the final 10 games of January? Plus, which teams do you feel good about if the Mavs were healthy that they would beat in the 7-game series? All that and more coming up next on the DLLS Mavs Podcast. Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato, Mavericks analyst Bobby Carella. We are DLLS Mavs, your favorite guys, cover your favorite team every single day at Kevin Gray Sports, at Tim_Cato, at Bobby Carella if you want to get at us on X. Really appreciate you joining us here on DLLS Sports here on YouTube. Which Mavericks have the most to prove in the final 10 games of January, and have the new Mavs that joined the team been what you expected so far? We'll get into all of that over the course of the next hour here on DLLS Mavs. If you haven't heard the breaking news, of course, in DFW Sports today, make sure you check out DLLS Sports at alldlls.com. The Dallas Cowboys are moving on from head coach Mike McCarthy after 5 seasons. Jeff is disappointed in that fact that Mike McCarthy is moving on, but check out all of our coverage at alldlls.com. Also, check out our DLLS Cowboys podcast as well. Fantastic show. Well over an hour as the fellas had you covered when it comes to Mike McCarthy and him being not a part of the Cowboys anymore. But we got to talk some basketball here on this particular show. Mavericks had practice today. We'll get a little bit of an update a little bit later on in the show as the Mavericks finished up getting ready for the Denver Nuggets tomorrow night. Unfortunately, they fell last night to Denver, blowing what was a 19-point lead in disappointing fashion. They will take on Denver tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. late tip-off time with our pregame show beginning right here on DLLS Sports at 7:45. But the question, gentlemen, we'll kick off our show today with on this manic Monday, I'll call it, around here at the DLLS Sports studio. Before I get to any of that, how you guys doing? You guys good?
You could have called it Mad Monday.
Mad Monday, Manic Monday.
Maybe Marvelous Monday, depending on
Not McCarthy's Monday.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm doing well.
You doing well?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm ready to talk about some basketball.
You ready to talk about some
I
basketball?
feel like losses like last night leave such sort of like a immediate sour taste in your mouth, but then you go home, brush your teeth, go to sleep, wake up, eat breakfast. You kind of forgot it all happened.
And then you see 2,000 viewers at one time watching the Cowboy show.
Yeah, and then you're ready to just move on to the next big thing.
Next big thing. And that is, of course, dealing with Nikola Jokic, because he's pretty big and he was pretty good last night, unfortunately, for the Denver Nuggets. But our first topic that we'll jump into today, we want you to participate as well, of course, in our chat. I already see some of you guys in there. Ronald, Ben, I see you. What's up? Make sure you have yourself a good Monday.
Luke's in there.
Luke's in there as well. Shout out to our Aussie brethren and Luke. No, Ben, I'm not going to be the next Cowboys head coach. That is not on my agenda at all. I got to host the show.
And then Mike McCarthy is our new DLLS Mavs host.
Oh, me and Mike switch jobs?
Yeah.
I coach the Cowboys. Mike McCarthy hosts this show.
I don't think I would like that.
Who would be better at their job? Me coaching the Cowboys or Mike McCarthy hosting this show?
It's a good
coaching
question.
The Cowboys.
Oh, that's sweet, Abby. Thank you so much.
Let the chat decide.
Just because podcast hosting is way harder than it looks.
We make it look pretty hard sometimes. We make it look pretty hard.
Yeah,
Whenever you're gone, we're like, oh my God, when will Kevin come back? Please, where is the boat?
Oh, you guys are so sweet. That's very nice.
Return to harbor. Come back to port. We need him.
I was on a boat the last time I was gone, and that was fun too. But anyway, that's another conversation for another day. Have the new Mavericks been what you have expected? Naji Marshall, Quentin Grimes, Klay Thompson, new Mav, old Mav, new again, Spencer Dinwiddie. Have the new Mavs been what you expected as we are just about at the halfway point of this season, with the Mavericks getting back on the floor tomorrow night on the first night of a back-to-back? They'll take on the Pelicans on Wednesday night. Gentlemen, we'll just start there. Bobby, I'll start with you. Have the new Mavs been what you expected them to be when it comes to Klay, Naji, Spencer, and Quentin Grimes so far this year?
I think
first.
Yeah. Let's go guy by guy.
Okay.
Guy by dude. Klay, I feel like he's been what I expected him to be. shooters shoot, and he shoots a lot. He's looking for his shot. I think he stays ready to shoot. He was definitely trying to figure it out for a little while, and that was something that, J-Kid really kind of primed us for. And Mark Stein said the same thing. Like, it's going to kind of be a whole deal to get him involved, and it certainly was. But he's been pretty good over the last couple months now. Shooters sometimes will go 1 of 8, and then they'll go 6 of 8. You kind of have to live with that. But I think the one thing that stayed consistent with him is he is always drawing attention off the ball, and really no other Mavs have done that in the Luka era. And also, he has brought a level of energy on defense and locked-inness and intensity. It's difficult to overcome things that happen to your body as you age, especially with someone like his kind of injury history. And so he does have some limitations there, but he competes. And so I think that he's at least met my expectations, if not exceeded them.
Yeah, he has been almost bang average to my expectations. You look at his numbers, he's averaging 14.2 points. I thought that might, maybe would be a bit higher. But I think you see this a lot. You see especially shooters and stars around his age who are clearly declining, aging. And when they go to a different team, I want to say Ray Allen did this, from Boston to Miami. Like, his numbers, his scoring dipped a lot. I still think there's a path for him to be a little bit more of a consistent scorer, but that path is going to be with Luka and Kyrie out there. For him to shoot 38.5% on threes. Again, that's about almost exactly what he shot the previous season, almost exactly what he shot in his first season back. He did have a 41% shooting season and the 22-23 season. That was when he was 32 years old. But I think that more or less, you're probably not expecting a 40% shooter. Maybe he's going to have a few months where he's 40% to close the year. Maybe he carries that through the playoffs. But I think he's been the guy, smart basketball player who can make some plays inside the arc, even if he's not really the 2-point threat that he once was. It feels like sometimes it's kind of random when he makes a shot. And for the most part, I think that's good. As long as he can still make really contested, difficult shots as well as the wide open ones, I think that's what continues to create the fear and the gravity from defenders and really amps up the spacing. He is shooting 43% on wide open threes. Even if because it feels like every single time he's wide open, they should go in. It feels like it's lower than that. 43% is pretty good. The truly elite shooters in this league shoot 46, 47% on those on wide open threes. But I think he's been about what you expected. And even on the defensive end, battles, he's out there. He started every game. He doesn't always close. All of that is kind of what I had in my head for Klay Thompson when he joined Dallas.
Klay Thompson will be 35 next month, and one of the things he said coming into the year is that he wanted to at least show on the defensive end that he still had something to give on that end of the floor. And I think for so far this year, in 34 games, he's been pretty much as advertised. Obviously not what he was as one of the better two-way players during his prime, but enough defensively at times for this team where you don't feel like he's a negative on the floor.
Can I give you some good news?
Sure.
Kyrie Irving, questionable for tomorrow.
Whoa. Okay. Some breaking news early on in the DLLS Mavs podcast. I imagine the injury report has been posted when it comes to...
It's J-Kid at Mavs practice just now.
Okay. So Kyrie Irving, who's missed the last almost week now with, of course, the bulging disc in his back, has been upgraded to questionable for tomorrow night's game against the Denver Nuggets. So good news. I'm sure GM Ben, he loves that news.
Dawn on the 5th day. Look to the east. I'm telling you, Gandalf and the Rohirrim, we said that. All you have to do is hold the night. All you have to do is survive the night, and then you look up right at the sunrise, and you're going to have this whole fleet of cavalry stampeding down that mountain to wipe out whatever's left over.
What we'll do it.
So, all that is a moot point if Kyrie doesn't play tomorrow, but I do want to just put that on tape.
Questionable the day before usually means that you are planning to play, that you are on track to play. Now, any little thing could disrupt that, but that's usually what it means.
Because Derek Lively, I believe, a week or two ago was questionable for a game. We thought he was going to make his return. Unfortunately, he wound up not playing that particular game. But that is good news if you're a Mavericks fan, obviously, with Kyrie Irving potentially on his way back as early as tomorrow against the Denver Nuggets. Again, late tip-off time at 8:30 tomorrow night.
I hate to bring up the dramatic, the drama of yesterday, the question I asked, but do you play this really?
Play him on Wednesday. Play him on Wednesday.
Yeah, do you
play him on
pragmatically?
Wednesday.
I think you should play him on Wednesday. If he's coming back from a bad back, I don't think that he's going to play a back-to-back.
I would imagine not playing a back-to-back would be a good bet coming against the Nuggets and the Pelicans. So, but the fact that he's even upgraded to questionable is a fantastic sign for the Mavericks, given the potential of what the injury could be, because you never know with a back injury what that could mean for a player, especially who's 14 years in the league at 32 years of age. But the news coming from Jason Kidd from practice today that Kyrie Irving has been upgraded to questionable for tomorrow night's game against the Denver Nuggets. More on that throughout the course of the show here on the DLLS Mavs podcast as we discuss which Mavericks, or how have you felt about the new Mavericks so far this year? We just discussed Klay Thompson. Let's switch our attention, Tim Cato, to Quentin Grimes real quick. We are a Quentin Grimes pro show here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Has Quentin Grimes been what you expected him to be so far this season?
Pretty close. I think I've been a touch. I thought he'd be a touch better defensively, but I think he's been good defensively. I think that out of everybody on the team, he is far and away the best player at getting around screens, at navigating the big men and just sticking with guys. You saw it last night against Jamal Murray. Sometimes Jamal Murray would have someone screen for him, and Dallas wouldn't switch because Quentin Grimes got over it. What a novel concept. That's something we haven't seen a lot from the Dallas defense. I think he's been pretty good on that end. And offensively, he's shown me a little bit more off the dribble than I expected. But overall, pretty close to what I was thinking from him as well.
I'm sorry, I was
Quentin Grimes.
Okay, Quentin Grimes. Yeah, my God, it's been a very long day. Quentin Grimes has been.
Bobby was distracted because he was finding the GIF.
I was finding the GIF, but I was also communicating to somebody about All City Matters. I'm telling you, my brain is so content. Like, I am so
Quentin Grimes.
Brain rotted. Quentin Grimes has been.
Now he's choked up. Got it.
He's been so beautiful to watch. He's been better than I thought offensively, and he's been about what I thought he would be defensively. But I think, and this kind of will bleed over into the most approved segment, I think he's still got a lot to show in terms of consistency, in terms of constant impact, in terms of decision making. But he has flashes of being a really, really freaking good basketball player.
More than flashes, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Waves.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's long stretches of being a very good basketball player, and if you can start eliminating those few lulls, oh my.
The high end of Quentin Grimes has been spectacular as a three-point shooter, as a 3-and-D guy, a guy who can attack the rim. We saw that in the Cleveland game where he had 20 points in that third quarter there. The high end of Quentin Grimes is a really, really good player, and if that version of Grimes can be a little bit more consistent throughout the course of the rest of the regular season, regardless if he's here with Dallas or somewhere else next year, he's going to get paid quite handsomely as he's a restricted free agent going into the summer of 2025. Let's finish up real quick with Naji Marshall, and then we'll get to Spencer Dinwiddie a little bit later on. But real quick, how we felt about Naji Marshall so far.
Interesting. He's the most interesting one. He has been way better and way different than I expected on the offensive end. And he has been he has not been the defensive player that I thought Dallas was getting, that I had kind of seen in New Orleans. On the offensive end, it really does seem like he completely embraced this freedom that Dallas has empowered him with. I wasn't expecting him to be the ball handler who isn't like a lead ball handler, who isn't Luka Kyrie or Spencer Dinwiddie, that Jason Kidd legitimately trusts the most. I think that's a perfectly accurate assessment of what we've seen so far, is that Jason Kidd completely is okay with Naji Marshall with the ball in his hands as a secondary creator, but as like a secondary creator in primary roles where he is running pick and rolls for himself, where he is sometimes initiating the offense. I think he's the player, non-point player that Kidd trusts the most there. And he has done so much more with that than I expected. It's just that on defense, he was in New Orleans. He was a splash player. He made splash plays. He got stocks, steals, and blocks. And those have not been here at the same rate that we've seen at previous times in his career.
Dude, at any rate, and this is a pro knife broadcast. All right, we love knives around here at DLLS Sports, but there was a commenter or a chatter yesterday on the postgame that was like, y'all are giving Dinwiddie a lot of heat, but what about Naji? Like, Naji's defense has been, and commenter, you're right. Like, Naji has not been a super impactful defender. There are a lot of games that go by without me even noticing that he's on the floor on defense, which is, as the kind of splash player, right? Steals and blocks, and like you're making plays, deflections, those things pop off the screen. You notice them. And you notice guys that strike fear in opponents' hearts, and it just doesn't seem like he's had that kind of impact regularly.
I will say steal percentage, his career steal percentage, 1.8. This season, it's 1.9 for Dallas. His blocks are way down.
Yeah.
He's not getting blocks. And sometimes a block is a strip down of a shot. So if it is sometimes better to look at steals and blocks together, because there is kind of a gray area in the middle where a good defensive play, a good splashy defensive play, it might look like a steal, it goes as a block, vice versa. And so when you look at that overall, he is down based off his career numbers. I don't know, though. I think the eye test, I'm going to trust the eye test here as well, that he has just not been big impactful as often as I expected.
Let's take our first break here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. A little bit later on in the show, our Mavs superlatives, who has the most to gain over the final 10 games of the month of January. But coming up next, we break out the Corellustrator as our guy Bobby Corella breaks it down when it comes to what the Mavericks have to do to try to get a win tomorrow night against the Denver Nuggets. All that and more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast. But it's bowl season, of course. We've got the national championship game coming up between The Ohio State University and Notre Dame. The winner will be your national champion for 2025. After that, you got to go to the East-West Shrine Bowl, America's oldest college football all-star game, being held right here in the heart of Texas on January 30th at AT&T Stadium, marking the 100th edition of the East-West Shrine Bowl. Since 1925, the game has benefited Shriners Children and its mission to provide innovative pediatric specialty care to improve and transform the lives of children. You can see some of the nation's top college football players play in this head-to-head competition ahead of the NFL draft coming up just in April. The East-West Shrine Bowl has served as the starting point for many noteworthy NFL careers, including 80 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and more than 200 members of the College Football Hall of Fame as well. Tickets start at just $20, and we got a special offer as well. If you use the code DLLS when purchasing 2 or more tickets, you receive 50% off your purchase. So visit shrinebowl.com to buy your tickets today for the 100th edition of the East-West Shrine Bowl.
Sorry, I was finishing a comment. Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. It's available for sports tickets, obviously, but they've got concerts, they've got comedy, they've got all sorts of stuff. When I was looking for a ticket to a DJ, Jamie XX, kind of a DJ. He's just an artist, from formerly of the XX, great indie band of our childhood.
Yep, I'm older than you.
Okay, well, it was a big band for me in high school. But yeah, that's who I went to get tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DLLS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
It's game time.
VCR came out in 2009, so that was the year I graduated high school. So I don't know if you would call that childhood or teenage years. I don't know. When does childhood end? Does childhood ever really end?
No, not if you're a kid at heart.
So welcome back to DLS Therapy. Yeah. And we are getting really in.
Today we're talking about loss of innocence on the show.
Yes.
Among loss of head coaches, too, as well for the Dallas Cowboys. I appreciate you joining us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Shout out to Ardell. Really appreciate your support, my man, as well as everyone else in the chat who supports us here at DLLS Sports. It's been a busy day for us here at the studios, given all the news that's been breaking. If you missed it a little bit earlier in the show, Kyrie Irving has been updated to questionable for tomorrow night's game against the Denver Nuggets. Our pregame show begins at 7:45 with tip-off at 8:30. So we may see the return of Kyrie Irving tomorrow against the Denver Nuggets. More a little bit later on in terms of what we learned today from Mavericks practice. But it's time to break out the Corellustrator here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Unfortunately, Bobby, the Mavericks dropped what was a 19-point lead and wrapped to scoring just 15 points over the final 17 minutes of yesterday's game. And the Mavericks defensively may need to make some adjustments, especially when you're looking at Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray.
Yeah, so the game really turned whenever Lively picked up his 5th foul. This is with about 5-ish minutes left to go in the game. Up until that point, the Mavs had a really sound defensive game plan. They were defending really well in the half court. A lot of what the Nuggets were doing to them to beat them through the first 40-ish minutes of the game was in transition and on putbacks. But as soon as Lively picked up his 5th foul, the dam broke, and it was just a flood of points for Denver. So I'm going to break down a couple plays where the Mavs defended well, and then I'm going to show what happened whenever Lively picked up his 5th. So Tanner, let's bust it out. Let's go to the footage. If you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes, I highly recommend you go to YouTube to check it out if you want some visuals. So here's a play from the first quarter. Derek Lively is just guarding Jokic. It's a face-up. We got Klay in the lane. We got Dinwiddie and PJ and Naji all staying home on their shooters, but the Nuggets don't have a whole lot of shooting, and so if you need to cheat off someone, you can. But Jokic doesn't really have anything easy here, and so as we go to the next screen, he's going to try and back Lively down, but you can't get too physical because Lively's got him in good position. Naji playing the gaps in position to help, Klay in position to help, and so Jokic on the last clip here, or the last picture, Jokic has to settle for like a 12-foot fadeaway. Now, he misses this shot. He can make this shot, but it's a tough shot. There's nothing easy about that shot. Lively's on the floor. Good things happen. As we go to the next play, the Nuggets are going to run a high pick and roll, Jokic-Murray pick and roll, and this is a very, very difficult play to stop. We got Grimes on Murray, and I thought Grimes did a really good job on Murray yesterday. Now, Daniel Gafford is going to switch onto Murray, which normally you would think, why is your 5-man switching onto the point guard? Well, Maxi Kleber is a big-bodied 4. So as we go to the next clip, Maxi is able to get behind Jokic, kind of try and prevent him from establishing position close to the rim, and then Quentin Grimes is also fronting Jokic. So it's really, really tough here for Murray to first see over Gafford, then deliver a pass over Grimes that's not high and soft enough to where Maxi can poke it away. And even if Jokic catches this pass, again, he's going to be in a really difficult position, that sort of dead space on the floor, 13, 15 feet away from the rim. So as we go to the next clip, Murray tries to take the slower Gafford off the dribble, but he dribbles right into Jaden Hardy's help. So now he has to pick up the dribble, delivers a really awkward bounce pass to Jokic, who does gather the ball, but in the last picture, he's 20 feet from the rim. There's 3 seconds left in the shot clock. His dribble is dead, and Max is able to contest the shot. So in this clip, the first clip we saw Lively defend Jokic straight up and win that matchup. In the next clip, we're able to see Gafford switch off onto Murray, but the Mavs had more size behind him so that they could get away with doing that without having to double-team Jokic. But all of that goes to poop if Lively picks up his 5th foul but stays in the game. Now, I do want to say this. I agree with keeping Lively in the game. I don't think they should have gone to Gafford. I don't think they should have gone back to Maxi at the 5. Your best chance to win that game was with Lively on the floor, but you're not winning that game if anyone other than Lively is defending Jokic. So now let's go to play 3.
Can I say one thing?
Oh, yeah,
real
sorry,
quick?
yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to chime in that I also saw, it's kind of shown in this clip, where Maxi ends up taking Jokic and Grimes recovers to the player Maxi was guarding, I think Porter, on the far corner. Doesn't matter.
Gordon, but yeah.
Maxi is so good at this, but I thought the entire team was good at doing a lot of off-ball switches, just like, because there was times, because Denver was so good in transition, was coming out, and I think you're about to talk about this a little bit, but because Denver was so good in transition, there was some cross matches, and then Dallas's players would solve it on the weak side a lot of the times when one player was guarding a big, a small was guarding a big, and a big was guarding a small, and they would find ways to pre-switch those actions a lot. I thought it was a pretty fluid performance from Dallas.
It was great.
It was really good. And it's such a bummer that Dallas was, did all that great work, as you said, and then just gave it right back in transition and on the boards.
Yeah. Now, part of the other problem is if you are defending Jokic 25 feet from the rim, your big is not down low to get the rebound. So it's like, it's this multifaceted problem, but that's what makes Denver so good. All right. So play 3. And KG, we were watching the game together yesterday. As soon as Jokic caught the ball in this position, what did I do? I said, he's chicken. He's barbecue chicken.
And barbecue chicken. Yeah.
Lively cannot guard Jokic here. He's in foul trouble, so Lively's on Russ, which I kind of agree with. Russ is the worst shooter on the floor for Denver.
But that leaves PJ on the
Yeah, so
Jokic.
now PJ Washington has to step up and take this Jokic matchup, and Jokic is ISO'd at the free throw line. He's able to lower his shoulder in the next image here.
Play some bully ball.
He's able to get to where he wants to go, and Lively is now defending Russ, and you can't cheat over too much. Jokic's really good at drawing fouls, and if you abandon Russ, it's a dunk. And so Jokic is able to go in this last picture here, rise up for that little floater. That is a super easy bucket. That's the easiest basket Jokic scored all night.
Super easy bucket for Jokic.
For Jokic, yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's still – PJ defends this well, all things considered. But Jokic makes that 9 times out of 10. Next clip. Jokic catches it on this sort of free throw line extended kind of high post area of the floor. Same setup. PJ is on Jokic.
Oh, boy.
But watch Russell Westbrook. So he's gonna move through the same way he did on the previous possession. But as we go to this next clip, I think Lively kind of calls his own number here. I don't believe that this is the coach's game plan or what he's supposed to be doing. If it is, Dinwiddie messed up. If it's not, Lively messed up. Because Russ sees this happen and just darts right toward the rim.
Yeah.
So Lively's going to double the ball, but that means that Dinwiddie's got to slide over. But in this last image, Russ makes the catch. Dinwiddie's not there. Dinwiddie was really slow to react to this play, which is what leads me to believe that Lively is the one that kind of freestyled. I think he thought that he might be able to make something happen, but there's no Maxey on the back line. There's not even
Maxey
a PJ
would've
on the
been
back
there.
line.
Yeah,
There's
Maxey
no
would've been
big
there.
in the
Yeah,
back
it's your
line.
smallest player.
Yeah.
You know, that's the low man there. And Dinwiddie's not used to that, and so he doesn't recognize it in time. So I'm not putting any blame on Dinwiddie at all, unless that was the called coverage, but I don't think it was because there was no stoppage of play. There was no signal from the bench or anything. I think Lively just tried to make something happen and
He
failed.
probably realized what happened on the previous possession. Like, oh, I got to go help my guy over here because he might be a little bit overmatched with Jokic after what happened on the previous play.
Russ, smart player, noticed it, made
Goes to
something
the
happen.
basket. Yeah.
Now the last clip is the following possession. Now it's Dinwiddie on Jokic.
Oh,
And that's definitely not what you want. But the Mavs missed a shot. Nuggets come down, and now they're in this cross match situation, Tim, that you were talking about. So Jokic is going to spin baseline, so away from the middle of the floor, away from the help at the nail, which is PJ Washington, in this next clip or next picture. So Jokic spins away, but as he spins away, PJ still follows him, and Lively stepping over off of Russ. So now it's 3 on the ball. Klay then has to come down to defend Russ in the dunker spot, which leaves Peyton Watson open in the corner.
wide open.
Peyton Watson is, of this group on the floor for the Nuggets, their worst or their second worst shooter. So if you are going to give up something, then I'm down to give up a Peyton Watson 3. But in this final image, Dinwiddie and PJ are behind Jokic. Lively is between Jokic and the rim, which is really good positioning. But Jokic has a clear line of sight to Watson in the corner. Spencer's not in his way. PJ is out of the play. Neither of them is able to get to the ball. And Jokic is 7 feet tall. So he's able to deliver this pass on time and on target to Watson in the corner, and it's a clean 3. He made it. So that's just a 7-3 Nuggets little mini run in about a minute and a half, a minute 45 after Lively picked up his 5th foul.
Tanner,
and in every single one of these examples, Jokic is the one that starts with the ball, and Lively's not able to be on him.
Go to the second slide in that whole sequence, in the last sequence. Ideally, and this is so easy to do watching a screenshot, from afar the day after, all of those,
you're not going to double
qualifiers.
team out there and help out?
No, Lively has to come over, which means that Klay has to slide. In a perfect world, PJ doesn't follow, and Naji kind of plays center field between those two. Basically, you have PJ and Naji playing zoning up 3 players, and then you have Lively helping, and you have the dunker spot covered.
Yeah, PJ kind of
Naji
removes
would have kind of
himself from the
slid
play,
down a
yeah.
little bit, and Naji would have basically been at the opposite, the weak side elbow, or maybe a little bit closer, but then Naji would have been more able to guard either of those guys. Basically, it's weak side zone principles.
Yeah, or PJ needs to sink down and be a little more in the passing lane between Jokic and the dotted line of the free throw line, sort of that semicircle.
But it's hard. It's hard to do. And they played really good defense for most of that game.
Yeah, but also that just shows you the attention that Jokic commands with the ball in his hands.
Yeah, totally.
But that's not the case when the big was guarding him. The Mavs really only doubled Jokic whenever the big was off. It just so happened that their big was in foul trouble. And, the thing that really, that kind of the death knell in the game is that Lively picks up his 5th foul, fouling Jokic 30 feet from the rim on an inbound play right after Gafford had done the same thing. These two very avoidable fouls that, where Jokic is not a threat to shoot or do anything with the ball, but you foul, you grab him so far from the rim. So tomorrow night, if the Mavs want to, execute the same level, the same caliber of game plan, which I thought was excellent. I thought they played really, really good defense for most of that game in the half court. Lively has got to stay out of foul trouble. And these are some really, really good examples against a team like Denver as to why that is, because your only chance of stopping Jokic is to at least make it hard on him one-on-one. That's it. Anything else, their whole offense becomes way too easy.
Which makes that much more sense that they ran out of gas in the final 17 minutes, because the amount of energy they expended on the defensive end through the first, most of that game. I mean, you only gave up 67 points, and then the final 17 minutes, you give up 45. But I think that just speaks to, again, the amount of energy that was expended by Dallas and why legs were not there in order to make shots when they needed to try and win that game against Denver. Make sure you check out our video again with the Corella Straight. And if you're listening to the podcast, make sure you check it out here on DLLS Sports as well. Our guy Bobby Curler breaking it down here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Coming up next here on our show, we'll go through some Mavericks superlatives. Who has the most to gain, the most to lose, and the most to prove in the final 10 games of the month of January as they wait the return of Luka Dončić and possibly Kyrie Irving a little bit sooner than later. All that and more coming up next here on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
But first, we love flooring, and I collapsed to the floor a few different times during that Mavs collapse in the fourth quarter yesterday, but luckily I was caught by the wonderfully comfortable and sturdy floors from our friends at Empire Today. You can get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick professional installation, and a low price guarantee. They keep shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. They're trying to help you find what you need, not give you like 10,000 options where you're just totally overwhelmed and totally confused. You can barely tell the difference. What they leave out of their selection is just as important as what they put in. They're not trying to sell you some garbage. They're only trying to give you the best product. And they have a virtual floor designer too. You don't have to go to a box store and shop in person. You can do it from the comfort of your own home. Just snap a picture of your floor. Boom. You can see what that flooring will look like with your lighting, with your decor in your home. Schedule a free and home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code DLLS. Restrictions apply. See empiretoday.com/DLLS for details.
Let me talk to you about Rugged Road Coolers. I got one sitting right here next to me on set here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Rugged Road is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventures that demand the best. Our products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions, whether you're on land or water. Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. Crafted to handle the toughest conditions and environments, these coolers are built to last, ensure they keep up with any adventure. Coolers are guaranteed to keep their contents cool to up to 7 days, and oftentimes much longer, as we have found out here, specifically here in our studio. Perfect for a variety of outdoor activities, from fishing to tubing to camping and tailgating. These coolers are designed to meet the needs of every outdoor or sports enthusiast. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road Coolers. Reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code DLLS for 10% off. Again, ruggedroadoutdoors.com. Use code DLLS for 10% off today. Who has the most to gain, the most to prove, and the most to lose over the final 10 games of January as the Mavericks await the return of Luka Dončić and Kyrie Irving? Again, the news coming out of Mavs practice today from head coach Jason Kidd is that Kyrie Irving has been upgraded, I should say, to questionable for tomorrow night's game against the Denver Nuggets. Of course, he's been dealing with a back injury, but Kyrie Irving inching that much closer to his return. Remember, game time at 8:30, a late start time, and the Mavericks are on the first night of a back-to-back as they take on the Pelicans tomorrow night in the Big Easy. But, gentlemen, let's go through some of this. A team in Dallas that finds itself at 22-17 after their loss last night to the Denver Nuggets. See them again. They have a chance to avenge not only the loss, but also potentially have a winning homestand as well, as they're looking to go 3-1 on this 4-game homestand. But they've got some work to do in the final 10 games of January before we turn the calendar to February. So let's start here, gentlemen, in our Mavericks superlatives. In the final 10 games, Tim Cato, who has the most to gain for these Dallas Mavericks as they move through the rest of the month?
Kyrie Irving can make a push to make his 9th All-Star game. I think if he's back, there really isn't any reason. If he had kept missing games, maybe you'd say, well, just not quite enough games. He's at what? As I hit my mic, he's at 30 games right now, which I think is enough. And I do think he absolutely deserves to be there. But I think a little push to close out as votes are still coming in. I think that that is something that is quite something significant to gain for him.
That's a good one. I think that I'm going to go with a guy that's not even playing right now. That's not Kyrie or Luka. I think it's Dante Exum.
Our Mark Stein reporting yesterday that he's starting to take threes and starting to use that right hand a little bit more now.
Yeah, I mean, if it comes to be that this guard rotation without Luka and Kyrie just can't stay consistent. You know, Grimes has been playing well, but yesterday not so much. Same for Hardy. Dinwiddie's had some up and down. He's had a lot of ups, but he's had a lot of downs. Then Exum is like, who is he competing with for minutes? If like everybody else is so unstable and the one thing that you can rely on Exum for is stability, then maybe he just waltzes his way right into the rotation play in 25 minutes. So I think that he has quite a lot to gain.
I'm going to go with a guy that's been pretty maligned on this show over the last couple of weeks, and a guy that we know when Luka Dončić is in the lineup plays extremely well, but he's got to start proving it a little bit more, and I'm going to go with Daniel Gafford. We know how important Derek Lively is to this team, but Daniel Gafford's got a lot to gain here over the final 10 games of this month to really reestablish some good play for him, because they're going to need his minutes behind Derek Lively to be able to punish second units. Daniel Gafford's got a lot to gain here for me over the next 10 games to really solidify the backup center spot for the Dallas Mavericks, which gets us then, gentlemen, to who has the most to prove over the next 10 games. Bobby, I'll start with you. I see in our chat that Grimes and Hardy have the most to gain if you're Luke looking at this team. But for you, Bobby, who has the most to prove in the final 10 games of the month of January?
I think Grimes and Hardy are the two guys that have the most to prove. I'll even call it a tie between them because, again, you know, Luka and Kyrie are going to – Kyrie might be back tomorrow. Luka will be back in hopefully a couple weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it is. And then Exum is coming back as well. That's a lot of guards that can play a lot of minutes. And Luka and Kyrie between them are going to play almost 80 minutes a game for the rest of the year. So competition is fierce for scarce resources. And there might only be room for one or two of you to get any minutes. And right now, you know, it's those two and Dinwiddie that are playing a lot. And when those three guys come back, they won't be playing a lot anymore. So which of you can be more consistent? Which of you can be more reliable? You know, Grimes is definitely the best defender of the trio, but he is probably at least in theory, the most limited offensive player of the trio. But there's been stretches where he's been playing best on offense of all those three. So Hardy, can you step it up? Dinwiddie, can you remain stable at least as a playmaker, and then hopefully up your shooting percentages? I think that it's between Hardy and Grimes, because not only are they competing for playing time, for minutes, but Grimes for his next contract, Hardy he's got a contract, but are you going to become like a sixth man, or are you going to stay as like an 11th man?
Are you going to be a Dallas Maverick by the time we get to the trade deadline, the end of the trade deadline?
Which I don't know. I saw some commenters saying that Hardy might not be able to be traded. I don't think that's the case, but maybe it is, but I don't know.
I believe he is eligible to be traded. I think when they got the deal done, he was eligible to be traded, but we can confirm that for sure. Tim Cato, most to prove over the next 10 games for your Dallas Mavericks?
I've got Jason Kidd.
Okay, let's take it to the head coach.
He doesn't have anything to lose. I want to make that very clear. He's taken this team to the conference finals and the finals when Luka and Kyrie are healthy. He has proven he is the right coach for this team. He has not proven at times in the past that he has been super adaptable. This is something we were talking about, the 5-game losing streak. And I thought he came out with, you know, a excellent game plan that was fully instilled into the team against the Lakers. I thought the team played well against Portland. I'm not faulting him really at all for that Denver loss. Not me personally. I am not faulting them. You can quibble with some stuff, but I thought they had a good game plan against that team too. I thought the performances were there in the terms of what they can control. Coaches can't always control transition and offensive rebounds. They can much more control what you do defensively in a half-court setting. And I thought they were good, but I would love to see Jason Kidd continue to find ways to get the Mavericks wins when especially against teams that they could beat, they should beat when Luka and or Kyrie are not out there. Especially if at least one of those guys is out there. So
coming down the pipe, New Orleans, Charlotte, coming up soon.
So for me, it's absolutely J Kidd, and I think that after being very rigid and unadaptable in the season that they completely missed the playoffs, that was a lot of what I felt down the stretch of that season was an inability to adapt. I think we've started to see it just a little bit this month, and seeing it a little bit more, I think would just show me something.
Speaking of New Orleans, I'm going to go with Naji Marshall. We talked about him a little bit earlier in terms of what we've expected from him coming in and how he has played so far. He's been extremely streaky when it comes to his three-point shooting, inconsistent on the defensive end. I think he's got the most to prove over the next 10 games to not only solidify that second unit, but also as a playmaker and somebody who's going to be dependent upon to really be able to bring it on the defensive end from an energy perspective. I think Naji Marshall has the most to prove over these next 10 games. As you start looking at Luka and Kyrie's return, he's going to be a big part of that second unit and really going to have to provide it on both ends of the floor, especially from the three-point line, where I think he still has a little bit better ways to improve there from
hopefully
distance.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot there. Because I think at one point, going into the Denver game, he was around 21% from the three-point line over his recent game. So got to improve from the three-point line to provide some scoring there from that area of the floor. Most to lose, gentlemen, here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Who has the most to lose, Bobby Carella, over the final 10 games of the month of January?
That's tough. I'm kind of inclined to go with your answer on one of the last questions. Daniel Gafford,
sure,
I think has quite a bit to lose because, going into last year of his contract, it's a big number for backup center. And, it feels like right now, a year ago today, it felt like the gap between Lively and Gafford wasn't very big, if at all.
Ooh,
as the playoffs went on, it felt like there was a bit of a gap. And then, deeper and deeper into the playoffs, it's like, okay, well, playoff basketball favors Lively's style more than Gafford's style. But now really in all aspects of the game, it feels like Lively's significantly better. And that's not a bad thing. It's good to have good players. And Gafford, I still believe.
And Lively has absolutely improved.
Absolutely,
That's a big part of it.
Yeah, I still believe that Gafford is a fine backup center, a good backup center. But at that number with this team's financial reality, depending on what you sign Kyrie for, you might not be able to keep Quentin Grimes at all. Going into the summer, you're already up against the tax. You're already flirting with the apron as it is right now, the first apron. And it becomes a whole lot more difficult to build a team if you get above that. And so I don't think maybe Gafford, like, he's going to make his money. He's got another year left on his contract after this one, but a $15 million backup that's a distant backup to the starter is really, really expensive when it comes down to, the math around building a team. So I guess, like, his thing that could be in peril, I suppose, is like the future with the team or something. That doesn't mean he's losing anything. But I mean, he is losing playing time right now too, So I think that he's under a little bit of pressure right now, I think
that's a good answer. I'm struggling to come up with another answer that makes more sense because, again, when Luka and Kyrie are not out there, this is a little bit of, purgatory. It's a gray area. Dallas Mavericks as a team have, I guess, a lot to lose if they can't get a few more wins and end up in a play-in scrap. And if that's how the season ends up going, I think everybody within the organization would really look back ruefully at this stretch. If Dallas, they've already had some games that were winnable games that they have not won. And if they have a few more of those, especially against these, the teams coming up on the schedule, that would be very tough to stomach. But in terms of individual players, it's hard to look at any single player and think that, even like Spencer Dinwiddie, like, I am actually kind of I'm definitely looking forward and kind of curious to remember what off-ball Spencer Dinwiddie looks like.
Oh,
And
such a better player.
Such a better player, such a more interesting player. He's the guy who's like, shooting 49% on corner threes. And, I welcome his return, but, what he's doing right now, it's necessary. It's part of why Dallas signed him, but it doesn't really matter for this team's ceiling.
He leads the league in seconds per touch since Kyrie and Luka have been out. So over the last 5 games, he is averaging 6 seconds per touch. Yesterday against Denver, he averaged 6.8 seconds per touch and more than 6 dribbles per touch. That is way too much of anybody. That's way too much of anybody, let alone a guy on the vet minimum that does not have burst. That's just
the ball can't
way
be that
too
sticky. It cannot.
It cannot be that sticky. Luka is this year averaging less than, I think, 4.8 seconds per touch, and Kyrie is not in the top 50 in the league in seconds per touch. So and Dinwiddie on the year is averaging more than 5. To average 6 that's incomprehensible. It's got to change. But again, it's not totally his fault. They need other guys.
This is the position that he's been put in.
Yeah. He's not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah.
That's not what they brought him here for.
You don't ask a guy on a veteran minimum to have to play the kind of minutes that he's had to, but unfortunately, that's a situation that the Mavericks have found themselves in. Let us know in the chat as well who has the most to gain, the most to prove, and the most to lose throughout the course of the show. And if you're watching this back, let us know in the comments as well. Coming up next here on the DLLS Mavs podcast, if the Mavericks are healthy, which teams do you feel good about them beating in a 7-game series? We'll discuss that coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
But first, as KG has alluded to a couple times throughout the podcast, big news day for the Cowboys. Head coach Mike McCarthy reportedly will not be back. Our Cowboy show happened to be live at the time, peaked at more than 2,000 concurrent viewers. It was awesome. It's our biggest live show, I think, outside of maybe week 1 win against the Browns, whenever everyone thought we were all going to live forever.
Right.
In DLS Sports' history. But
biggest Cowboy show ever.
Even better is all the articles that Clarence and Joe are going to be pumping out on that beat. And the only way to read that stuff, Cowboys interview process, who they should hire, what's the word from inside the Star. The only way to read all that stuff is to become a diehard. You scan that link right below me, that QR code, or you click the link in the description, or go to alldlls.com/diehard. You can become a diehard for less than $7 a month. You can read all of our content on our site, including Cowboys stuff, Tim Cato's post games, plenty of other news, analysis, opinions, and features on the other pro teams in town, with more on the way. You also get to join the DLLS Discord server. You also get a free shirt when you sign up and a discount on any other merch you might want. And you get a physical diehard card. Don't forget about the physical diehard card.
Are you upset with merch being shortened to merchandise being shortened to merch?
No, because that's a common shortening of merchandise.
Oh, okay. So you're okay with that shortening?
Yeah, Bobby just be making stuff
Somewhere
up.
along the line, someone was the first person to say merch.
Yeah, but that made sense. The stuff you be making up don't make a damn bit of sense.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's
Benny's?
just... It takes
Who the hell says that?
It takes a lot more
Be
courage
on the right side of history
to be a trendsetter, to be a trailblazer,
Okay.
than to be a follower. All right? We're thought leaders here at DLLS Sports.
We are.
And on alldlls.com/diehard. Shout out to Pat, to Wayne, Jacob, Rob, Taylor, Dylan, Rodney, and Jason. They all signed up to become diehards over the weekend. So I ask you, good YouTube viewer, what are you waiting for? Join our mighty and growing legion as soon as you possibly can.
Be part of our DLLS Sports family. Over 13,000 subscribers strong here at DLLS Sports. We are the subscriber show of record. We were live with 10, 11, 12, and 13K here on the DLLS Mavs show. So be a part at alldlls.com. Become a diehard member for less than $7 a month. Which teams do you feel good about beating in a 7-game series if the Mavericks are healthy? The news coming from Jason Kidd earlier today that Mavericks guard Kyrie Irving is been upgraded to questionable for tomorrow night's game against the Denver Nuggets. Of course, tip-off is a late one at 8:30 p.m. with our pregame show beginning at 7:45 right here on DLLS Sports.
Can I say something real quick? So in the chat about Gafford, Ardell astutely points out Lively misses a lot of games. And so it's almost like, you want to save money at backup 5 so that you can spend it elsewhere. But if you know that your starting 5 that's on a rookie deal is going to be out for 30 or 40% of your games, it's hard to take too many shortcuts. So that is something that you have to factor in. That is a really a really difficult but important kind of sticking point to that whole thing.
It's not an argument, but that's not an argument to not have a backup center. The question is,
how much should you spend?
How much should you spend, and are you getting your, as from the team's perspective, are you getting your money's worth with Daniel Gafford?
Yeah, and that's tricky. So then the solution would be to find a cheaper one that is just as viable, if not more, and that's hard to do. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. All right, I'm not saying it's easy, folks. It ain't.
But that's why we pay Bobby the big bucks to figure it out.
No, that's why they pay Nico the big bucks.
That's true. Actually, that is true. Tanner, let's revisit what was our predictions early before the season started as far as who would finish in the top 6 as we discuss here, who we feel good about the Mavericks beating in a 7-game series. Okay, so we have our preseason predictions up of our top 6 teams. I had OKC, Dallas, Minnesota, Denver, Phoenix, and Memphis as my top 6 in that order. Tim Cato had OKC, Dallas, Minnesota, Phoenix, Denver, and then Golden State. That was his top 6 in order. And then Bobby Carella had OKC, Dallas, Minnesota, Denver as the 4 seed, Phoenix as the 5, Golden State as the 6. And Mark Stein had the exact same order as Bobby Carella. As we look at where we are just about halfway through the season, as we leave that up, Tanner, the top 6 right now as it stands, OKC, the number 1 seed, they are running away with it at 32-6. The Houston Rockets as the 2 seed at 25-12 right now. They're a game up on the Memphis Grizzlies, who are 25-14. They're the current 3 seed. Denver sliding in there right now as the 4 seed at 23-15. Dallas at the 5 at 22-17. And the Los Angeles Lakers right now are in the top 6 at 20-16. They sit a half game ahead of the other LA team in the Clippers, who are at 20-18. Do you guys know, by the way, real quick, who has the current longest winning streak in the league right now?
I know the answer, but I'm going to see if Tim can guess.
Okay.
Sacramento Kings?
They do. The Sacramento Kings. You guys are real ball knowers.
That coaching change bump.
They've won 7 straight games to get themselves to above 500 at 20-19. That still has them at 9th in the West. But yeah, 7 straight games since Doug Christie.
I think it's kind of unfair that the Mavs have played 3 more games than the Lakers and are also about to play a back-to-back. Like, when will it end? Will the Mavs ever get time off? I feel like every single day they have a game.
And their schedule.
They have one tonight, actually.
Oh, my God.
No, we're going to be.
They do not.
Oh, my God.
They do not.
7 p.m.
You can't make me do this.
Their schedule is kind of difficult, though. You look over the next 5-6 games. They got, of course, the first night of a back-to-back tomorrow against Denver at home. Then they're on the road against the Pelicans. And, oh, by the way, on Friday, gentlemen, they get to see the number 1 seed Oklahoma City Thunder. In fact, they will play the Thunder twice in the span of a week. Where have you heard that before?
I'm so tired of the Thunder. Just get away from me.
It was you that made the point that they play the Thunder. It'll be 5 times this year because of.
No, it's only 4. It's only 4.
So who is the team that they're playing 5 times?
They have to play at OKC 3 times.
That's right.
And at Golden State 3 times.
So it's the Rockets they play 5 times, I believe it is. This year.
No. It's just 4.
I thought there was a team that they played 5 times this year.
No, their makeup is against Golden State.
Okay, that's right. Okay,
yeah, it's just they just play unbalanced road schedule. They're the only team in the league that has played 3 games at OKC. Great job, NBA. The in-season tournament rules.
So that gives you an idea what their schedule looks like. And oh, by the way, on January 25th, so they'll play Minnesota on the first. That second OKC game on the road is on the second night of a back-to-back.
Good job, NBA.
They got Minnesota on Wednesday at home. Then they go on the road the next night to OKC. And then 2 days later, they return home to take on the Boston Celtics. So
it's like, again, algorithms did all this stuff. Do we really want AI to rule our lives? Like, look at what machines have created. This atrocity, all right?
That is kind of wild. You play OKC twice in 6 days, and then you play Boston in that span as well.
Someone looked at that and said, that's fine. And then Milwaukee gets to play the Brooklyn Nets every day for 3 months straight somehow. And it's like,
it feels like.
These teams are in the same league. They play in the same league under the same rules.
But then they get to face Washington at home a couple days later after playing Boston. So you get the gift.
Yeah, well,
that's your reward for playing that difficult schedule is Washington coming.
Yeah, and other teams get to play them 5 times.
Yeah, see, they get to you're just going on about, oh my God, they play in the same league. Washington doesn't. That's not an NBA team.
They should be relegated at this point when it comes to Washington. So who do you feel comfortable with the Mavericks are healthy to beat in a 7-game series? We've looked at the Western Conference standings. We're kind of taking a peek at their schedule. Who do you feel good about the Mavericks beating if they're healthy in a 7-game series, Tim Cato?
Any of them?
Ooh, okay.
Even OKC?
OKC is the toughest by far, and we haven't even seen what they look like with Chet. And I'm not going, Dallas or Chet and Hartenstein together. But, Dallas goes into that series, and it's not, you probably, side a little bit more with OKC. I mean, the odds are, the experts are, but I see Dallas as a team that can play them very well, and I see that being the case for pretty much every other team in the conference. I think, just looking through. Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's OKC is the only one that really scares you. I'm trying to imagine, like Houston's a weird team for Dallas to play, but that's manageable. They can just shot makers do well against good defenses. I think that'd be a series where Kyrie, like a Houston series, I think Kyrie might struggle a little bit, but Luka solves so much of that, and Dallas is so dynamic now. It's really just OKC that should scare you. Memphis, I think, is the 3rd best team, the 2nd or 3rd best team in the West. It's really hard to say whether Dallas is the 2nd or 3rd best team with how little they've been healthy and together. The Nuggets don't scare me. Do the Nuggets scare you guys?
I mean, a 3-time MVP who should scare anybody. I mean, he's
a bad dude.
That's a bad mother bleeper, man.
But we're also sitting here, KG, we're in the studio yesterday watching the game, and it's like, this could change between now and the end of the year. But
sure.
When Jamal Murray has the ball in his hands, I'm not that worried. I'm just not that afraid. Russ and the open floor is spooky, but it's the playoffs. Things slow down. Russ was horrible last year against the Mavs in the series.
That's true.
I would be worried about Jokic, though, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's always concern, I think, with that caliber of a player. I think Tim started to name a team that they give me pause. They give me great pause, and that's the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, healthy. I mean, we see the effect that John Morant has every time he's on the floor. What he did against Minnesota the other night, hit the game-tying bucket, then hit the game winner as well. He's such an explosive player that he's so difficult to guard that he changes the trajectory of what Memphis can be as one of the upper echelon teams in the West. But I still feel good about the Mavericks beating pretty much every team in the West when they're healthy. Oklahoma City is that team. They are that good, that talented, and now they have some experience behind them now after having the loss last year, of course, to the Mavericks in the West semis, that they would be the team that would give them the most trouble.
Yeah, here, let me I'll do it this way. Totally dry, most teams in the West. Couple little dribbles, Denver and Houston. Streaming down my leg, OKC.
Yeah.
Why would we phrase it like that? Were you looking over at the window?
To give you a meter. No,
Yeah.
I wasn't. I wish.
Yeah.
Just to give a little meter, I'm terrified of playing the Thunder. I think it would be a great series. Like I'm not playing the Thunder, thank God. But I think it would be a great series. I think the Mavs could beat any other team in the West, but Houston and Denver would give me just a little worry.
Houston because they defend like crazy. Houston is a terrific defensive
team. 2
team.
real big dudes in the middle.
Yes.
And Denver with Gordon and with Porter and with Brown and Russ. Houston with like Tari Eason and Thompson and Dylan Brooks, annoying Dylan Brooks. They got athletes. They got guys that play hard. They got guys that will crash in and get rebounds, that will do all the dirty work stuff. That can do kind of like what Andrew Wiggins did to the Mavs whenever they played the Warriors in 2022. This guy that's like, you don't expect him to be doing all this weird stuff, but he's just going to go do it until you stop him. And I think Houston and Denver have some guys that can do that, whereas other teams just don't.
Gordon changes everything for Denver.
Yeah. Oh, dude, he was so good yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. He was really annoying.
I think Houston is the scariest non-OKC team.
The experience factor is a big deal, though. The experience factor is a big deal.
It does matter. It does matter. But I don't think Houston or Memphis can play in the half court that well in the playoffs against Dallas. I think Dallas can because they have Luka and Kyrie, even against those defenses.
But Ja can go get it, though, if he need to. Ja can go get it.
The half court, I mean, he's an awesome player. But I think Houston is likelier to make up the difference with their own defensive players, with their own ability to score in the fast break, just decide to. Like you can have the best transition defense in the world, and you still can't stop Amen Thompson sometimes. And then their second chance, their ability to get second chance stuff. I think that just like disrupts the math so much. I think that's the most math disruptive team.
Depends on the whistles too. Are you letting them play the whistles?
Yeah.
Real quick, thank you to our television audience for joining us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to DLLS Sports on your way out the door, and visit alldlls.com. Become a diehard member. And remember, our pregame show begins at 7:45 with tip-off at 8:30 as the Mavericks take on the Denver Nuggets.
I'll clarify. I think Dallas has a chance to beat OKC. I agree. I think this roster as is, it would be very tough for me to see them. There's far more pathways for OKC to win than Dallas. I wouldn't rule out Dallas winning, and if they make a move, they can upgrade in some area. But I would be very worried about that
team,
series.
man.
I
don't see it. I don't see it right now. Even when the Mavs were firing on all cylinders, I did not see it. But that could change, and magical things happen in the playoffs. Pressure does things to people. It makes diamonds, or it makes whatever, sand or something. What's the other thing? Pressure makes diamonds. Is there ever like the flip side to that phrase?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It makes dust.
Maybe.
Pressure bursts pipes, things like that.
Pressure can burst pipes?
No, I like pressure can make diamonds or make dust.
Yeah. When I think
Let's coin that. That's
I think with teams like Houston and Memphis, if it's kind of weird because I think the Mavs are better whenever it's not a tight whistle. But against teams like Houston and Memphis, I think you would want there to be a tight whistle to get those guys in foul trouble and to get them rattled, to get them kind of in their own head, to get them to back off. Because if you're just allowed to play pretty physical basketball, I think that really, really suits the way the Rockets and Grizzlies would want to play. So,
last thing I'll say real quick on the OKC thing, the OKC Dallas, it's a genuine rivalry. These two teams do not like each other. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind when these two teams get together, whether it's during the regular season or in the playoffs. It's a genuine rivalry that, I mean, if that's the Western Conference Finals this year, that's going to be one epic finals if the Mavericks are able to find their way there. But that'll do it for us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. We really appreciate all of you joining us here. Thank you again to helping us reach 13,000 subscribers yesterday during our DLLS Mavs post-game show. We've had an epic day here, obviously, with the news of Mike McCarthy no longer being the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Our DLLS Cowboys show cooked as well. Over 2,000 live viewers during that show as well. We've got a lot of cool stuff happening here at DLLS Sports. Spring training is right around the corner for your Texas Rangers as well. The Stars just came off what was a 7-game winning streak. They're playing some good hockey as well. Again, a lot of cool things happening for us here at DLLS Sports. We want you to be a part of that, either by subscribing, checking out our podcast, visiting our website, supporting us in any way that you can. We would really appreciate it. We'll be back here tomorrow for our pregame show at 7:45 p.m. Late start and tip-off time for your Mavericks. They will play the Denver Nuggets at 8:30 p.m. That's a nationally televised game on TNT. If you're going to be watching the game, join us for our pregame show at 7:45. And then 15 minutes after the game is over, we'll have our postgame show with our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato and our national NBA insider Mark Stein joining us live from the America Airlines
Get yourself
Center.
a nap in tomorrow.
Yeah, get your rest.
We need you at full strength at 7:45
It's going to be a late night tomorrow, but hopefully an exciting one at the AAC. And who knows, Kyrie Irving may be back as well, as he's been upgraded to questionable for the game against the Denver Nuggets. We'll find out more as the rest of the day goes on and tomorrow on the pregame show. For our Mavericks analyst, Bobby Curl, that's our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato. I'm your host, Kevin Gray. We are DLLS Mavs. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 7:45 right here on DLLS Sports. Y'all be good. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.